morning. We are Team Gen X. Phillip, Don Gomez, Ron Deal, Rahime Howard, and I'm Garry Hodges. Gen X stands for Genesis Excelsior, which is the theme of our project. We believe that our students need a Genesis Excelsior, or a beginning with excellence. What this means for our students is that we will provide them with the tools that they will need for success during their college career, during orientation.
When we started working on our program or our proposal, we really started looking from the standpoint of our freshman planning session, in which we came up with, or the recurring theme was transition and retention. We also talked about our student orientation programs at the various colleges, and what we found was that student orientation heavily relies on registration. However, there's not an academic component to that. And so when we're thinking about transition, we have to think about students who are transitioning from one academic program to the next, meaning from high school to college, or for working adults who are transitioning back into the classroom after being out of the classroom for so many years. What we do know is that transitioning from high school to college is going to take new methods. So studying, note-taking, different thought processes. So by adding a more academic program to student orientation, you possibly can help with the transition process and then also helping with student retention. We also know that at the various ISDs, that some of these schools are just not doing the job. And so we have to better prepare our students to be able to be college ready and successful. So bridging the gap between high school and college learners, basically what this is talking about is that students have to come in knowing that college is a different playing field. We have ISDs out there, especially here in Dallas, where we know that students don't even get to take home their textbooks. So we have students who come into college thinking, hey, I don't even need a book. And so what we're going to have to do at orientation is let these students know that, hey, this is going to be totally different. Also, create a success pathway to college completion. Some students will come in and test into developmental math, writing, reading. So we want to let our students know that, hey, there's going to be a light at the end of this tunnel. Continuous guide and educational resources. Let students know also there are resources out there to help you in your endeavor. Also, letting students know that college is both challenging and fun. We have all types of student organizations. We also have all types of work areas, all those things. So students need to know about that. We have a lot of games during orientation at some of the schools. So students come in again with a different idea, thinking, oh, it's going to be fun. Well, it's going to be fun, but it's also going to be challenging. And then also helps students see the light at the end of the tunnel. Meaning that, hey, you may have tested into a developmental area. However, if you work hard, use the resources, you are going to finish.
Good morning. My name is Ron, and I'm here to cover the what of our team proposal. Team Gen X surveyed new and current students about what their wants and needs were out of an orientation session. This being a split group was intentional on our part. After receiving the feedback from the survey, it clearly showed what students wanted and felt that they needed. If you'll look at the screen for a moment, I'll go over a few of the questions we asked. On the screen, of the students surveyed, 54% did not attend an orientation session before enrolling, while 72% believe that time should also be spent conveying skills for student success. Of this same group, 95% wanted a college writing component added in to the orientation session. This same group had 92% that wished for a math session to be held. The last one we'll go over showed that a large group of 95% wanted a college study skills workshop and thought it would be beneficial, including a note-taking and a test prep session. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Good morning. So I'm going over the what's next, and basically we're talking about some of the things that we discussed as we did our compression planning. So what we really found was what's going on now in orientation isn't really streamlined. So you can go from Eastville College to El Centro to Mountain View to Richland, and you're going to get a different story at each college. So some of them you have to go, some of them you don't. Some of them put blocks on you. So what we found was students can navigate through each college and kind of get what they want. They can kind of do that with a lot of things on each campus. So the first thing I want to talk about is what is orientation and why is it important. So who here has gone to an orientation in their undergrad? I never did. So I actually attended Eastville, never went, actually did really well there, but it's because my mom worked there, so I kind of had to go to school. I transferred to Texas State, and I didn't go to an orientation. It was required, but I was hungover, I didn't go, I went to my registration and that's it. So I missed all the important stuff, and guess what happened to me my first year there? I sucked. I bombed. I failed all my classes. And it wasn't until I had to get that structure, those study skills, and go through that kind of stuff that should be in an orientation that I got on track and finished out and got my degree. So those are kind of the really important things that we discussed when we were doing this plan. And I think it's very important to have a prescriptive orientation for these students, because when they're there, if they're deficient in a certain area, you want them to take the class that they need to go ahead and prepare them, for the next level. So one thing we want is for our mandatory orientation across the board, we want it to be automated. So when I say automated, I mean a student comes in to take the TSIA and they bomb math. Do really well in reading and writing, but bomb math. So if we have a software system that says, okay, you did really well in reading and writing, so you get the two free electives in your orientation. So it could be student tours or games or whatever, but you have to take a math prep class in your orientation to prepare you for whatever. And so one of the things, who knows the percentage of students who have to take developmental classes? Any guesses?
70.
Sorry?
70?
60 nationwide. That number jumps up to 75% for community colleges. 75% of our students, 1 in 4 is ready for college. The rest of them have to take some developmental classes. And then on top of that, who can tell me the graduation rate for those students? 10%. In 8 years. For a 2-year college in 8 years.
15.
You got close. It's around 30%. So, out of all that, what's the big drive that we have here on all of our campuses? What are we going to get funded by? Eventually. Completion, right? So we have 75% of our kids in developmental classes, and only 30% of those kids are graduating. Our completion rates are, we're not going to get paid. We're out of jobs, right? So we took all this into consideration when we were doing this, doing our compression planning and everything. So some of the things we wanted to address were having this brought back to some of the mission statements of the district. So student success. Obviously the goal is completion, student success. So developing a good program for them to be prepared. Community engagement. So if we do this and we graduate our students and they're prepared for the workforce, or they're prepared to transfer and they're quality students, we're obviously setting a benchmark for the district. And they're going out there and doing great things, and they came from the Dallas County Community College District. Institutional effectiveness, it's not going to cost anything. We have smart people all around, right? We have staff and faculty that can collaborate and develop a good product for these kids to learn. And then employee success. Who here has an opinion on what should be in an orientation program? Most of us do. Most of us say, oh, well, that's stupid, or that's, who thought of that? And so we all have opinions, so if we all collaborate together and develop this program, I think we have a better shot. So some of the goals, obviously like we talked about, maximize staff productiveness, and then one important thing on here is maintain awareness of TSI. When I was an academic advisor, I knew the TSI scores like the back of my hand. Someone could say, oh, I made a whatever in math, and I would tell you exactly where they need to be. It's changed so much, I don't even recognize the scores or whatever, so I can read a sheet and tell you, but the campus culture as a whole doesn't know the importance of where people place right now, so that's one thing we want to bring awareness to. And that's my one more point before we move on to Rahime. The other thing that I wanted to mention was some of the things that we talked about in developing these study sessions before during orientation was the effectiveness they'll have in actually preparing them to succeed in their college level courses. So studies show that students who take remedial courses don't tend to do better than students who don't have to take remedial courses in their college level courses. What that means is the way we are currently preparing students to deal with college level courses isn't up to par with how they're being prepared anywhere else. So if we develop a plan to motivate them, get them engaged, and prepare them for college level, that way they excel and graduate within 4 years, that's a huge hurdle. So that's what we talked about. Thank you.
All right, so one of the things that we talked about, how we want to do this. So adding an academic component to student orientation would possibly mean adding a math session, a writing session, and possibly a reading session as well. Just like Phillip said, in place on your TSI scores, it will tell us exactly what session we possibly need to go to. So I spoke with somebody in our math department at El Centro, and they thought that this would be a great thing for students. Now, in our proposal, we're saying that all schools adopt these programs, an academic program such as math, writing, and reading. However, it doesn't need to be the same program. At El Centro, for instance, we thought an hour-long session, which at El Centro, they have a number of teaching opportunities and teaching supplementary instruction information type programs that they use. One of the things that they do is they have a Jeopardy math game, and this basically is a game that students can play as teams or as individuals. With this, it actually gives you a level. So depending on what level you tested into, that's the type of math game that you're going to play. Now, at El Centro, what they do in this game is that if the person who scores, or team that scores $1,000, Jeopardy dollars, actually wins a prize. So, I don't know what the prize is. It could be a calculator, it could be a voucher for a textbook, but that's what they do. So what we're saying is that, and this is just another slide of what the game actually looks like. So obviously, pick probably no 500 points and try to win, I guess, look quickly. But what's going to happen here is that it'll be an hour session. They'll have opportunities to play the game. They'll be able to work on mock problems. They'll actually get to discuss math resources, and then also basically have a conversation with someone in the math department about their expectations for math, what bothers them about math, what hinders them with math, what scares them about math, and what have you. And then on the other slide, we just have a little bit of idea of the TSI scores. So this is telling us these scores here, scoring between 343 and 349, tells us exactly what math class a person is going to go into. Same thing with the other numbers. Now, this is for developmental math, but these are just some of the scores in some of the classes that students will go into. And again, like I said, part of this is to let students know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Because you score into a developmental math or whatever developmental class you're in, whether it's writing or reading, let students know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You can take these classes and be successful. Matter of fact, it's going to help you be even more successful at the college level.
In preparation of a college study skill workshop, I consulted with EDUC 1300 instructors, and also I've been an academic strategies instructor, freshman seminar, intro to college, success strategies for over 12 years. So a lot of this input is mine as well. And we are recommending that this academic strategies workshop will be appropriate for students wherever they place on the TSI. And it has a wide range of applicability regardless if the student is a first-time in college student or they are returning, regardless. And this basically works on the premise that that our brains are still growing, we're primed to learn, and this is, I'm going to cover right now 8 steps of what every college student, regardless, I said, of where they stand, what they ought to know. Okay, first would be to set goals early. And I'm the coordinator of career services at North Lake, and I have to endorse getting to career services as one of the first stops. And career assessment, undertaking a career assessment to make sure that they are working up towards the right path. And also, if they don't have an idea, this gets them started on a path early. And it helps identify what they're interested in, their abilities, and what they want in a position, what they want as their work values. And also, it's attractive to students when we tell them how this will save them time and money, not taking erroneous courses or just additional courses that really aren't necessary for their intended goal, whether it's continuing education or a degree, whatever their goal is. So setting goals early is extremely important. Number 2 is having students know the importance of identifying your learning styles. We recommend for this 1-hour workshop using the VARC. The VARC assesses whether or not where students fall on a score in terms of being visual, auditory, reading, writing, or kinesthetic. And they also might be multimodal. And this helps them to understand, by taking the VARC, they can understand what types of, have a touch point for what type of learning style they are working with. And then next, we're going to emphasize in this workshop studying smarter, not harder. And study smarter, not harder. Once they identify their learning style preferences, they can then use, and we'll introduce to them study strategies such as Quizlet.com. Who's heard of Quizlet.com? Anyone? Okay, Quizlet.com would be wonderful to help augment students' learning styles, because there's many different things, so many different features of it. Students, if they are auditory learners, can actually hear a word being spoken and then see the definition. Those who are visual and kinesthetic, that actually need, where it's advantageous for them to interact with the material, would really benefit with using the flashcard portion, where the definition is on one side and then the card flips actually on the screen to reveal the definition. Also, there's a game, a fun game that students love, and I did this when I was teaching EDUC 13. I put Quizlet on and I had students come up and compete as teams where they have a term coming up, scrolling across the top, and they have the term and the definition scrolling at the same time, and they race to match up and pull and drag the definition, or the term to the definition. And they really, really get into it. And it's a lot of fun. And it's a great way to learn. Next is to emphasize time management and organization as the framework for their entire college career. And not only emphasize it as a college tool, but a life tool. Okay? And we also talk about time management in the workplace. okay? It's not okay to not have in college, it's often, depending on your instructor, it's not okay to have your work in late, and in the work world, it certainly isn't okay to have your work in late and to not come through. So we focus on eliminating distractions as, in dealing with what they have control over, and that's unplugging and recharging their brain. We talk to students about finding a study cave. And a study cave is any place where they're going to have reduced distractions and where their environment is primed to learn. And the association of finding a cave to study helps prime the brain to the fact that it's time to study now. It's time to get down to business. The second workshop, well actually this would be the third workshop that Team Gen X is recommending, would be a writing workshop. Here are the cutoff TSI scores for developmental reading and sorry, that should say writing. Can you go to the next, please? Okay, this workshop's called Fun with Reading and Writing Workshop, Engage and Learn. Now for most students, reading and writing and fun aren't necessarily associated. But in the way that we can present the material, again, we reemphasize read smarter, not harder. Learn techniques on reading and comprehending college books. Yes, there are techniques to reading college books, and we actually show them how to open up a college book, what to look for, how to summarize, look at the contents, the index, prime the brain for what's to come, what they're going to be reading. And another exercise that would be in this 1 hour session would be ping pong game plan for reading. This is varying your game plan for college reading and study time. Let's say a student has 70 pages in 4 classes, 4 individual, 12 credit hours, and they have to get this in by next week. We know it can't be digested and learned in one setting, and nor should it. So we help them develop a plan for reading and study time. Next is Catch That CAD. Practice strategies, building their vocabulary. Next is a fun activity called Grab Bag for Big Ideas, where you use a graphic organizer to sort through main ideas. And identifying a main idea does take some practice. It really does. Next is using their natural inclination to utilize the phone, utilize their technology. And this is called Text to Me, Shape Up, where they use icons and clue words to understand lengthy passages. And the last, I want to emphasize, these are some additional activities, but one could be word parts. Half of the words in the English language have one or more parts that originate from Greek or Latin. And so if students have a base understanding of this can really help to really boost their vocabulary. Students were asked in a sociology class and an EDUC class, they were asked to comment on their individual orientation experiences, and this is what they had to say.
I was prepared by my high school counselors, so orientation made sense to me. The tours were too short, and even some of the students left without attending the sessions and the workshops.
Registration was stressful because of the trips back and forth to get the documents needed to register.
International students should have a separate orientation. I still don't understand about financial aid. We need more one-on-one time with advisors.
We need more information about clubs and activities on campus.
We touched on success skills, but I learned more from my clubs.
How to manage your time. Mommy's not standing over you telling you to study and be on time for class anymore.
Don't wait until the last minute to study for a test.
Students should study while chewing gum. Then chew the same gum on the day of the test in order for the brain to easily remember what they put in their mind.
How to take notes while the teacher is talking and still be able to listen to what the teacher says.
Where can I go to get help when I need it?
Where can I get help if I'm taking online classes?
They should have stressed the use of a planner to manage our time.
Streamlining student orientation across the district will improve new student transition, leading to student success and retention.